Bridgerton Season 4, Episode 3 trailer begins. A world that looks familiar, but feels utterly transformed. And just like that, we realize, whatever peace once existed in the ton is about to be shattered. Part 2 may have just premiered, but Netflix knows how to keep us restless. This new glimpse into Episode 3 is less of a teaser and more of a provocation. A whispered promise that the fairy tale shimmer of Benedict and Sophie's story is about to slip into deeper, darker waters. The camera doesn't show much, but it doesn't need to. Every look, every pause, every word feels intentional, as if the show is quietly asking us, do you still believe in love after what you've seen? Because truthfully, love in Bridgerton has never been simple. It's always walked that razor-thin line between privilege and pain, between desire and duty. And Benedict, once the light-hearted dreamer of the family, now stands right on that edge. The charming chaos that used to define him has turned into something heavier, quieter, and far more dangerous. It's not the face of a man searching for fantasy anymore. It's the expression of someone who's paying the price for it. The trailer wastes no time showing us how much the tone has shifted since Episode 2. Gone are the soft waltzes and stolen glances under chandeliers. What we get instead is tension, beautifully crafted, agonizing tension. Benedict's storyline has stopped being about what he wants. Now it's about what he must confront, his own reflection, his choices, and above all, the truth about Sophie. Sophie Beck, who has quietly become the emotional heart of this season, might finally step into the center of society, but not without consequence. The trailer shows her in moments caught between defiance and exhaustion, her eyes carrying the kind of strength that only comes from years of surviving a world designed to crush her. And while we don't see much of her dialogue, the silence around her speaks volumes. It tells us that this girl who once hid behind masks and titles is no longer hiding at all. Yet the question remains, can someone like Sophie ever exist freely in a world that was never built for her? What Bridgerton seems to be doing brilliantly in this chapter is contrasting dreams with the brutal reality that follows them. Benedict has always treated love as art, something to be painted, sculpted, or idealized. Sophie, meanwhile, treats love as war, something you endure, something worth bleeding for. It's this tension, this collision between two people who love deeply but live in separate worlds, that forms the emotional spine of Episode 3. The trailer hints at scenes bursting with intimacy but also restraint, a fleeting touch that lingers a moment too long, a door closing before a confession can be made, a tear blinked away before anyone can see. For fans of the original novel, An Offer from a Gentleman, these beats will feel heartbreakingly familiar, but the adaptation clearly wants to make us squirm, to question whether this story will end the same way we expect. Because just when Benedict seems ready to risk everything, there's a hesitation, an almost invisible fracture between them, suggesting that some wounds run deeper than affection can heal. And then we glimpse the family, the Bridgertons themselves, who for years have been symbols of elegance and emotional safety, seem to be watching their beloved son unravel. Violet's concern is almost palpable, Anthony's disapproval sharp, and Colin, for once, looks genuinely unsure. This isn't the flirtatious, comfortable family dynamic we're used to. Something in this episode promises to test loyalty, not just love. It feels as though the show is preparing to remind us that the ton may look golden on the outside, but the cracks underneath are beginning to show. Then there's that final moment in the trailer. A sound, a single breath, maybe a gasp. It's over before we can process it, yet it leaves traces of dread and curiosity. Is this the episode where secrets come undone? Or the one where hearts finally break? It's hard to tell. Bridgerton has always played with our expectations, turning romance into revelation and beauty into danger. But if you ask me, this upcoming episode feels like the point of no return. The tone is heavier, the color palette dimmer, and the music, though classic, carries an undertone that feels almost mournful. All of this combined makes Episode 3 feel less like a love story and more like an awakening. A story about people who have been living in polite denial, suddenly staring directly into their consequences. And yet, amid all that, there's still this sliver of hope. Because even when Bridgerton takes us to its darkest emotional corners, it never entirely gives up on the magic that started it all. A belief that love, no matter how impossible, can still change everything. If episode 2 was the calm before the storm, episode 3 feels like the moment lightning finally strikes the heart of the story. The trailer doesn't reveal much, but what it does show is enough to send the fandom into chaos. There's a sense of unraveling, not just for Benedict and Sophie, but for the world around them. Every costume, every glance, every candlelit conversation seems dressed in secrets this time. It's like the masquerade never really ended. People just started wearing better masks. What makes Bridgerton stand out, especially in this 4th season, is how personal the storytelling has become. It's no longer about hosting grand balls or climbing the social ladder. It's about emotional truth. And episode 3 looks ready to deliver that truth in its rawest form. Benedict, who once laughed at society's rules, now seems trapped by them. The man who saw art and romance as escape now realizes that imagination alone can't protect him from heartbreak. It's tragic, but it's also incredibly satisfying to watch, because this is what Bridgerton does best, showing us beauty and breaking it right in front of our eyes. The trailer captures that duality perfectly. For a brief moment, we see the world of Bridgerton shimmering. A ball in full swing, music playing, laughter everywhere, but the joy feels artificial. There's an unease beneath the lace and pearls, a reminder that what's glamorous can also be suffocating. Sophie, positioned on the edge of that opulence, embodies everything raw and real. She doesn't belong there, and she knows it. Yet, she walks into that world anyway, carrying her courage like armor. That single act alone tells you exactly who she is now. No longer the timid servant girl, but a woman learning to fight for her place in a story that wasn't written for her. And Benedict? He's caught between conscience and desire. The trailer barely lets us forget that his love for Sophie comes with consequences that ripple across his family name. There's a quiet desperation in him this time, almost as if he's torn between who he's supposed to be and who he wants to become. One moment, he's reaching for her hand as if it's the only thing that can steady him. The next, he's pulling away, terrified of the very thing he craves most. That kind of conflict is what gives Bridgerton its weight this season, those impossible choices between the heart's longing and society's demand. Fans might also notice the focus on Violet Bridgerton in this new chapter. Her presence lingers in the background, heavier than before. For years, she has guided her children toward love, preaching balance between duty and emotion. But this time, even Violet looks lost. It's as if she's watching one of her deepest hopes, Benedict's happiness, slip through her fingers, yet she doesn't know how to stop it. Her maternal warmth has always been a quiet backbone of the story, and now it's being tested harder than ever. And there's something else. A brief exchange, quick enough to miss but impossible to forget, that hints at Colin's growing realization about how fragile reputation truly is. It looks like we'll see him questioning his own choices and perhaps confronting how blind privilege can be when it collides with genuine emotion. That's what makes this episode's theme so striking. Everyone is waking up. The fantasy of high society is fading, replaced by a truth that refuses to stay hidden any longer. Through it all, the cinematography tells its own story. The color palette is colder, shadows crawling across faces, gold turning almost gray. It's as though the world itself is mourning something, innocence perhaps, or illusion. Even the music plays differently. Gone are the gentle strings that made past seasons feel like dreams. What we hear instead is slower, haunting, even unsettling. The sound mirrors Benedict's heart, beating, uncertain, searching for something that still feels just out of reach. But in between all the melancholy, the trailer leaves us with one unmistakable message: transformation. Whether that means emotional growth, heartbreak, or revelation, the story feels ready to evolve. Every great Bridgerton season reaches a point where love is no longer about fairy tales, but about survival. And episode 3 might be that turning point, because for Benedict and Sophie, this isn't just a romance anymore, it's a reckoning. And when reckoning meets passion, something beautiful and dangerous always follows. One of the most fascinating things the writers seem to be doing is making us question what we root for. In past seasons, we cheered for forbidden love and defiance. This time, it's more complicated. Are we still supposed to want Benedict to follow his heart when it might destroy Sophie's safety? or Sophie's sacrifice when it costs her self-worth. That moral gray area makes every choice electric, every silence unbearable. The love story has become a test of empathy, not just for the characters, but for us. There's a haunting symmetry to his journey in Season 4. He started as someone who looked at romance through the lens of art, painting lovers in soft light, believing beauty could fix everything broken. But Episode 3 makes it clear, even beauty has a breaking point. That same artistic idealism that once made Benedict charming now threatens to drown him. The trailer teases him standing alone more often than ever before, distant from the cheerful chaos of his family, detached even from himself. He's beginning to look like a man who has finally realized that dreaming and living are two very different things. What's most intriguing is how Sophie mirrors that transformation in her own way. She doesn't shrink from the pain, she wears it openly now. The trailer gives us glimpses, fragments really, of her fighting back in small but powerful ways. A single sharp line of dialogue, a look that cuts through pretense, a stillness that feels like defiance. Sophie isn't waiting to be saved. If anything, she's redefining what it means to survive. The balance of power is shifting between them, and that dynamic adds something thrillingly uncertain to this story. And that's when the tension between love and liberation becomes almost unbearable. The chemistry between Benedict and Sophie has always been about connection and contrast. His idealism versus her realism, his privilege versus her survival. But now, that attraction carries a pressure neither can escape. There's a moment, brief but searing, where Benedict reaches out as if love could rewrite the rules of their world. But the look Sophie gives him says everything. Love might not be enough this time. That single truth seems to spill over into the rest of the story. The Ton, usually self-involved and blind to lower struggles, begins to take notice. Not out of compassion, but curiosity. Gossip becomes weaponized once again, and what begins as whispers turns into something much louder. Each frame of the trailer hints at a society about to implode under its own hypocrisy. We see faces twisting between fascination and disdain, spreading rumors faster than wildfire. And through it all, Sophie stands tall, isolated yet unbroken. Proof that true dignity doesn't come from title or wealth, but resilience. What Bridgerton does so cleverly here is use that social chaos to mirror internal turmoil. Every smile looks forced, every compliment faintly cruel. Even the ballrooms, once golden and glowing, now feel like battlegrounds for sincerity. The emotional contrast is staggering. What used to be spectacle now feels suffocating. This storytelling shift is a sign that the show is maturing, trading spectacle for substance, turning love into something raw, more fragile, and undeniably real. And while the trailer keeps Sophie and Benedict at its core, there are subtle signs of side characters stepping into new territory too. Eloise's sharp eyes catch things others miss. A single glance from her could easily foreshadow the unraveling secrets to come. Meanwhile, Penelope and Colin's growing tension continues to hum beneath the surface. A reminder that love stories in Bridgerton never exist in isolation. Everyone's choices are part of the same delicate web. Pull one thread, and the entire fabric threatens to fall apart. Another striking detail is how the visuals seem almost painterly this time. Warm candlelight fading into cool dawns, reflections in mirrors fractured just enough to look symbolic. All of it deliberate. It's as though the series itself has turned into Benedict's own canvas, one that refuses to show him the portrait he wants. That's what gives Episode 3 its emotional gravity. A man learning that life doesn't bend to imagination, and a woman proving that reality can be just as powerful as fantasy. As the trailer intensifies, one line stands out, a voice, trembling but firm, saying something that silences the room. It's hard to catch the full sentence, but the meaning is clear enough. Truth has arrived, and it's not kind. The music drops, the tone sharpens, and you realize this episode might bring the emotional explosion the season has been building toward. There's no escaping the fallout this time. The characters we've grown to adore are standing too close to the edge, and it feels like Episode 3 might finally push them over. What remains after that moment isn't despair, though. It's anticipation. The kind of anticipation that only Bridgerton can create, where pain promises transformation and downfall might just lead to something extraordinary. It's that sense of unbearable waiting for the confession, the kiss, the catastrophe that keeps viewers hooked, desperate to see how everything will finally collide. Because in this world, devastation and desire always arrive hand in hand. Excellent! Here's Section 5, the conclusion of your Bridgerton Season 4, Episode 3 trailer and first look script. This section carries emotional weight, wraps up the suspense built across earlier parts, and ends with a powerful closing message and a smooth call to action. It stays true to the cinematic, intimate tone established so far. There's something haunting about the last moments of the trailer, that quiet breath before it fades to black. It doesn't end in chaos or heartbreak. It ends in stillness, but not the kind of stillness that brings peace, the kind that comes right after the storm, when the world momentarily pauses to understand what's been lost and what might still be saved. Bridgerton knows how to use silence as a weapon, and here it cuts deeper than any confession could. That final frame with Benedict standing in dim light, not triumphant but changed, feels like a whisper to the audience. Nothing will ever be the same again. What's most powerful about this upcoming episode is how it challenges everything we've come to expect from Bridgerton. It's still full of romance, yes, but it's no longer just about attraction. It's about truth, sometimes ugly, sometimes liberating, but always necessary. This story has never been afraid of complexity, but Episode 3 seems ready to push the characters into their sharpest, most vulnerable selves yet. For Benedict, love is no longer a dream he paints. It's a truth he has to earn. For Sophie, love isn't escape, it's confrontation, and that difference is everything. We often think of Bridgerton as this world of glimmering chandeliers and endless waltzes, but behind all that glitter lies something universal, the fear of not being truly seen. That's what makes this story so relatable. Beneath its gowns and titles, Bridgerton is about people yearning to be understood. And now, in Season 4, Episode 3, that theme rises fully to the surface. Every character, from Violet to Eloise to Sophie, seems to be facing that same question. What do you do when love asks more of you than you ever planned to give? The trailer teases that answer in fragments. A hand letting go, a letter torn in half, a tear that refuses to fall. But the real suspense isn't in what happens next. It's in how it'll change them. Because after this point, love in Bridgerton will never look simple again. The fairy tales are starting to dissolve, leaving behind raw humanity. And honestly, that's when the show is at its best. It's no longer about perfection. It's about truth disguised in beauty. That shift might be heartbreaking, but it's what turns fiction into something that feels profoundly real. As the imagery fades, the final voiceover delivers one line that lingers long after the trailer ends. Sometimes love demands everything, even the parts of ourselves we swore to protect. It's soft but shattering, a reminder that growth often comes disguised as heartbreak. That line perfectly encapsulates what Bridgerton has evolved into this season, a story about finding light through the cracks, about choosing love even when it hurts, and maybe, just maybe, about forgiveness, both for others and for oneself. When the screen finally goes dark, what stays with us isn't just curiosity about who ends up with whom. It's the echo of everything unspoken, the longing, the fear, the fragile hope that somehow, amid all the scandal and heartbreak, love might still find a way to win. And that's why Bridgerton remains irresistible. It doesn't just entertain, it makes us feel, deeply, achingly, sometimes uncomfortably, but always truthfully. So as we wait for Episode 3 to arrive, here's your reminder, this isn't just another chapter in the Bridgerton saga, it's a turning point. The season that dares to peel back the sparkle and show us the cost of feeling deeply in a world that rewards indifference. Benedict and Sophie's story may begin as a fantasy, but it's what it becomes, something honest, imperfect, and painfully beautiful, that will define it. And now, it's your turn. What did you think of the trailer? Do you believe Benedict and Sophie will find their way back to each other? Or do you think this is where their love story begins to unravel? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So drop your predictions below and let's talk theories. Don't forget to like this video if you felt that same emotional shift I did. Subscribe for more Bridgerton updates every week. And turn on the bell so you never miss a breakdown when the new episode drops. Until then, prepare yourselves. Because Episode 3 isn't just another ball in the ton. It's the moment everything changes.